Hey there, welcome to day 135 of Let's Grow Annual Challenge. I was going to say, what's she up to now? Nope, Let's Grow Annual Challenge, day 135. We're continuing our journey into mental growth. How do we grow mentally? How do we become more? How do we think ourselves into becoming what it is we want to become? And that's what today's topic is about. We're going to talk about the idea of thoughts become things, the law of attraction, and the impact that has on mental growth. I'm going to share an example of this as I get into our action item today. Our action item today is to pay attention to our thoughts. Notice your thoughts and then share one example of something that you thought about in your life that came about. If you've ever achieved a goal, if you've ever created anything, if you've ever thought about something, and that's what we want to do today, is notice in our life the things that we have been able to create that started out initially as thoughts. Pretty much everything that's in our life initially was an idea or a thought. On the topic of thoughts become things, of course, there's a write-up in Guide 2 of the Let's Grow Annual Challenge private Facebook group page. I can actually say that now without tripping over it. And Kyle's story of how he experienced the law of attraction and thoughts becoming things throughout his life. It might give you some ideas of how you can notice those things in your own life. We want to make sure that we're aware of our thoughts and intentional in our thoughts, because I will tell you with 100% certainty, our thoughts become things. And I'm going to share an example of how that almost killed me and why that came about. We want to think about positive thinking and having a positive mindset. We want to think about visualizing and goal setting. Visualizing and goal setting is an example of the law of attraction in action in our lives. We set a goal, we get an idea of something we want, we imagine ourselves as if we've already got that, and before we know it, that's already a part of our life. Self-belief and confidence comes into play with respect to the law of attraction. Of course, we're going to go into self-confidence and confidence really deep. We're going to spend a whole month on it. And then mindfulness and gratitude. We need to pay attention to what's going on in our mind, at least on occasion, and set our intention for what we want to create. Otherwise, things get created in our lives by default, because at a subconscious level, we're always thinking, we're always attracting different things into our life based on the energy we're putting out into the world. So if we're putting negative energy out into the world, negative events happen to us. If we're putting positive energy out into the world, positive things happen to us. Now, there's not a direct correlation between our thought and an immediate correlation between our thoughts and the results in our life. But I will say we can manifest or create things in our life really, really fast. And here's my example of that. In 2010, I was going through a really, really difficult time personally, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, with respect to my relationships. Okay, that's my big 7 areas, right? The 7 areas I used to focus on back then for my life. And I was pretty much out of control in every single one of those areas. I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't eating right. I was working all the time, building a business, and actually building several businesses. I was in a really, really horrible relationship for me. My kids were teenagers, which is challenging at best. And I was being sued by the city for one of my businesses. So all in all, a terrible, crazy time. And I didn't realize until after I woke up in the hospital from having a sudden cardiac arrest, which is called broken heart syndrome, that that's when I noticed and paid attention to what I had been thinking about leading up to that event. Now, it's pretty hard to think about something as crazy as that in a health challenge and say, hey, I actually contributed to and created that in my life. Now, it took me a year or so to come to that conclusion, but I realized that leading up to that event, I was thinking about how terrible everything was and that everything was out of control and I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do. And all of a sudden, the universe delivered to me the thing that I could do. I could just shut down, stop, and reset. And that's lucky for me. That's what happened. I had a sudden cardiac arrest. They froze me, put me in a coma. And then when I came out of that, I had some surgery to put in an ICD. But it was the full stop reset that I needed to actually realized that I could create the life I wanted and that I was actually in control and that I had to pay attention to the thoughts that I was having and what I was thinking about. And if you're thinking about, I can't handle this, I can't handle this, I can't handle this, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Guess what? The universe will answer that energy with something that gives you the answer that you need at the time. Now, at the time, did I think I needed a sudden cardiac arrest? Absolutely not. But looking back, 14 years later, it was exactly what I needed as a massive wake-up call. And I'll tell you what, having a death experience is a massive wake-up call in order to absolutely positively shift back to the things that I know work in my life versus focusing on the things that I know don't work in my life. So that's my story about the law of attraction. Now I've attracted a gazillion things into my life in a positive way. That's just the one negative, because I want you to know that we create our experiences based on what we need for this life experience. And it doesn't always feel that way. And sometimes when bad things happen to us, and bad things happen to all of us, it's to teach us and show us how to handle them and how to deal with them, and that we're bigger than the stuff outside of us that happens. So what's our action item today again? Pay attention to what you're thinking. Are your thoughts predominantly for you, positive? Are your thoughts predominantly negative? Are your thoughts supporting your goals and objectives and desires and the life that you want to live? Or are they dwelling on what isn't what you want right now? Because guess what? When we think about and dwell on what we don't want, we create more of that in our life. And in crazy ways we couldn't even have imagined. I never even knew what a sudden cardiac arrest was until I actually had one, which is kind of mind-boggling, but that just goes to show you that we're tapped into the collective consciousness, even if we don't think that we are. All right, that's our tale for today. Kyle's story guide 2, my story. Share one experience or one thing that you've created by thinking about it first. I mean, if you've ever created anything, if you've ever created a craft or a project, or if you've made a great dessert, or if you made a great recipe, that is all. You thought about it first, figured out how to do it, you did it, and it showed up on your table. All right, have an awesome day, and I'll of course be with you tomorrow for another mental growth topic. Have a wonderful day.